Okay, it's Monday again. Welcome everybody for Monday Analysis. Today we have a great video. We're going to be analyzing Tanzania economy. You know I love Tanzania, by the way. So we're going to be talking about productivity, people of Tanzania. We're going to talk about the political system. And we're going to talk about ease of doing business. And that's where we're going to talk about where the money is. So we're going to talk about where you can actually invest in Tanzania and make the big bucks, right? So without taking so much time, let's go right in. So Tanzania's geographic location is the perfect one in East Africa. If you look at it, they're on the oceans, they're in East Africa, which means you can produce stuff in Tanzania, or you can produce stuff in Kenya, you can produce stuff in Uganda, and you can still ship them through Tanzania port. And as well, so the culture in Tanzania is sweet, man. You know what I mean? I've been here in Tanzania for 2 weeks right now. I'm enjoying the food, you know what I'm saying? So one thing you have to know, the national language is Swahili. So this may be a spoiler alert. If you only speak English and you come to Tanzania, you may have a hard time finding someone who speaks English. So that's one of the things I don't like about Tanzania, but I hope it's get better. So I'm actually start learning Swahili right now, so I'll be speaking perfect Swahili very soon. So if you look at the colonial history of Tanzania, it was never perfect. So we have 2 colonial masters. The one was German. So after German lost the World War II, they actually took away some of their colony, and Tanzania was one of them, and it was given to UK or British. So the population of Tanzania is about 66.46 million, and the second only to Kenya in East Africa. So what does this mean is Tanzania is the second biggest market in East Africa. So if you're producing stuff like in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, or Burundi, or Congo, you may start thinking about how to get your product in Tanzania, because that's one of the second biggest market in East Africa. So the president of Tanzania, her name, I hope I'm going to do this right, but her name is Samia Suluhu Hassan. So I hope I did the right way. If I did the wrong way, please make sure you go down here and actually, correct me. So I'm going to actually make a little bit of some adjustment. I think I made a mistake on the population of Tanzania is 66 million. The population of Tanzania is 66.46 million, only second after Congo. So in the East Africa regions, right? So Tanzania is ranked number 77 per GDP globally, and is ranked number 9 in Africa. So it's the 9th biggest GDP in Africa. So let's see what we can do over here. So talk about productivity. This is one of my favorite topics about productivity, because this is what we see how the country is working. This is what we see where the country is making the money. And this is what we see where we can actually make money as well. So the GDP of Tanzania is about $75.5 billion, and the second only after to Kenya. So you can actually ask yourself a question. How is Congo not the biggest GDP? And we know it has the biggest resources as well the biggest market. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about the Congo economy, and we're going to see where we can actually improve that economy as well, see if we can actually make the best money. So if you look at the GDP per capita of Tanzania, is about $1,253 per person annually. So the GDP per capita is still the second after only Kenya, in East Africa. But I think Tanzania can actually do better based on the resources they have as well the market they have. So now let's talk about the export product. So indication of the export product, what it tells you as a businessman is how is this country earning the money. So when you look at the export product list, you can actually think about like, wait a minute. This product, they're missing this one product. So it can actually give you a way to see if there's opportunity in the market. You may actually not taking advantage of it, right? So the export product in 2022, it was gold, raw material, which was $3.14 billion. That's how much money they made in the export of gold. So we have a raw copper, which is about $815 million, also raw. Then we have dry ligaments, which are about $321. Then we have rice, $315 million, and then we have refined copper. So what can we actually learn from these numbers, right? So the first thing you can see is all the export product that are raw materials, right? So like gold, raw copper, dry ligament, refined copper. Refined copper, you can say, it's a little bit not raw material, but you can see the difference. They're exporting the raw copper of $815 million, but they're exporting the refined one, which is $224 million. So you as an investor, what you think is there's already a gap in terms of like refined copper. So they don't have enough capability to refine all the copper they have because they're still exporting a lot of raw material, raw copper. So if you look at the gold, gold stones, so I don't think you can do that much with it, but we can actually look at it and say, this is the biggest industry, this is one of the biggest industry, maybe we can make money in this industry too. But I want you to pay attention a lot. I want you to pay a big attention on import. And the reason why is the import tells you where the country is lacking. What is the country importing from other country? And then you have to start thinking about yourself, can we produce this product locally? And if you're an entrepreneur, like a young Tanzanian entrepreneur, or you live in East Africa, you can say, hey, these people that are importing this product and they think we can produce this locally. So it shows you the gap in the market. So what is Tanzania importing right now? Look at this. They're importing refined copper. So they're exporting the raw copper and importing the refined copper, which means there's already a demand for refined copper. So how much money are they spending on import of refined copper? They're spending $1.5 billion on refined copper, and they're exporting $815 million of raw copper, which means if they can refine the $815 million they're exporting, then we have only a deficit of about $200 million. So that's an opportunity for you as an investor or as a person who is in copper processing. You know what I mean? So they lack processing capability to actually be able to refine all their copper. So the result is they are exporting raw copper, but they're still importing refined one. So the second thing is refined petroleum or refined gas. They're importing about $730 million. Think about it. So they're spending about $730 million every year to refine oil. But at the same time, Tanzania has its own crude oil. You know what I mean? So that means there's an opportunity already into investing in refining the oil or gas in Tanzania, so you can actually cut down this deficit of importing this oil. So the third thing that they're actually importing is medicine. You're going to see this across most African economies. They're spending billions of dollars every year to import the medicine in a country. And if you're an engineer or if you're a doctor, you have a scientist, you should actually start looking into producing your own local medicine. Because the fun fact is most of these medicines that are made with raw material from Africa. Most of this medicine, they're made from vegetables or grasses or material from Africa, which means some scientists in Africa, they may probably have even way better chance on producing way better medicine that the US or Europe can do. If you can actually take a good example with India. India has been producing medicine for a couple of decades right now, and it has become so good that the medicine is actually competing with the Western medicine. So the other thing we're going to look at is the country's deficit. So the deficit is the export minus import. So you see the difference of, what is the country losing, what is the country, gaining. So the deficit of Tanzania is about $3.63 billion, which means there's a loss deficit. That means they're exporting less than they're importing in a country. So the next topic we're going to talk about is the money. What is the Tanzania money looks like? I want to laugh, but I don't want to laugh about it. You know what I mean? Because Tanzania money is a little bit funny. But, So the currency in Tanzania is Tanzanian shillings. You know what I mean? Tanzanian shillings is a little bit cheaper. So, if you go to the forex exchange, you take $50, you get like $120,000. You know what I mean? 20,000 Tanzania shillings. And one thing which is I haven't got used to is when you go buy something, you buy like a bread and somebody says 5,000, and then you be like, wait a minute. Then you remember it's Tanzania shillings, so you calm down anyway. So the inflation in Tanzania, it's very important before you invest in any country. It is very, very important that you pay attention on the inflation of the country. Because if you're bringing in your external currencies, if you're bringing in your your currency from your country, you have to understand how is that currency going to depreciate as soon as I convert it into the local currencies. So Tanzanian inflation rate is not really that bad compared to other markets in the region or compared to even international markets. It's just between about 3.6% inflation rate. But that means your money will be losing about 3.63% every year in inflation. So you have to think about what you're going to do the business you're going to do or where you're going to invest your money, you have to make at least twice the inflation rate. So now let's look at another thing, which is interest rates. So, as a businessman and you're looking to invest in Tanzania, you have to kind of pay attention a little bit on interest rates, because interest rate means access to capital. So you have a business in Tanzania and you're going to need to borrow money to build your business. So you have to know how much money is bank charging to borrow you capital. So the interest rate in Tanzania right now is at 6.5%, which is not bad because some country in Africa has 18% interest rates. The only best interest rate you can find is the United States, which is 1 or 2, 3%, depending on your credit score. So now let's look. One thing which I like the most about Tanzania is Tanzanian people. Bro, Tanzanian people, I like them, man. I like you guys, bro. But we're going to look at some economic metrics about Tanzanian people. So, for example, let's start with unemployment rates. So, one thing you're going to find when you come to Tanzania is, as soon as you get to the airport, I don't want to say this, please, Tanzanian people, don't hate on me, but as soon as you get to the airport, you're going to see a lot of people on the street doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? You're going to see a lot of people just on the street, just walking around or sitting, or doing, just chilling, man. So you're going to start wondering yourself, is there enough jobs in Tanzania? And also, I know that some unemployment rates numbers, they're usually not really correct numbers, so you have to really dig in to find the right numbers. But Tanzania posted in 2022 that unemployment rate is at 9.3%, which is not really bad, but I think they are considering people who are self-employed and who actually makes less money to be qualified as employed. So the cost of living in Tanzania, it's a little bit, modest, depends how you want to live, but I'm going to say on terms of like somebody who is a local person. So we're going to see some numbers. So before you move to Tanzania to do business, you have to know these numbers. It's very important. So the house rent, if you're going to rent a house, you're going to find like one bedroom for about $295. You're going to spend about $85 on food every month. And you're going to spend about $30 on transportations. And you're going to spend about $50 on utility. So in total, you're going to be averaging something about $500 to $600 a month in your expenses for living. But you may choose to live above that, or you may choose to live below that. But that is the medium cost of living in Tanzania. So another thing which you have to look at is, since you're a businessman and you're coming to Tanzania to do business, you have to know how healthy is the citizen of Tanzania, because that determines how much labor can you get in that market to produce your product. So if you look at the life expectancy in Tanzania is about 66 years. So people in Tanzania, they live up to 66 years. Some they may die early though. Anyway, so this is not guaranteed that you're going to live 66 years. So by 66 years is the average life expectancy of a Tanzanian man. Then we talk about the medium age. This is a very important number because you want to know how young or old the population is, because it translates into the consumers as well the workforce. So Tanzania population that's still young, the medium age is about 18 years old, and so you have enough consumers as well. You have enough for workforce. So one of the sensitive topic you cannot talk about is politics. Politics. When you talk about politics, you have to be a little bit quiet. Because I heard people say, it's not really that great when you talk about politics. But anyway. No, but I'm going to talk about it. So make sure nobody, put a hit on me right now. So the political system in Tanzania, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. The reason why I love political system in Tanzania is because they have been able to maintain peace for the longest in the whole entire East Africa. You're going to rarely hear a war going on in Tanzania or a civil war or something. So I love the fact that they've been able to maintain Tanzania as a peaceful country for a long time. So the political system in Tanzania, after the independence, Tanzania was a little bit of a communist country. Where the government owned everything, and people worked for the government productions. So, but then they kind of grow into a little bit of democracy as well, capitalist. But Tanzania can be described as a one-party system, country. So it's one-party state. So just one party runs the country. But I think they're doing a pretty good job because they've been able to maintain peace as well as maintain the growth. So the corruption index of Tanzania, you need to know this number. It's very, very important that you know how corrupt is the country before you come and do a business in the country. So let's look into the corruption rates of Tanzania. Tanzania corruption index is about 30%. They score about 30 on a scale of 100, which means the 0 is the most corrupt and the 100 is the best country. So Tanzania is a little bit about almost halfway. So it's about 30% of, on a corruption index. But this number sometimes may be not right, not give you the right picture because they're already created by international communities which don't really live in Africa or in Tanzania. So when you look at those numbers which are created by international organizations, you have to be a little bit cautious. Question yourself, what is the motive? What is the agenda? Why is the number low? Why is the number high? Because you're going to find some corrupt country has the best score. For example, United States is a corrupt country, but it has the best score. So you really have to kind of take those numbers with a little bit of a critical thinking on it. So one of the most segment in this video is how easy is it to do a business in Tanzania. Some of the information I'm going to give you here, I experienced this myself. I did my own research. I spoke to people, and actually came up with some conclusion. So one thing you need to know before you come to Tanzania is before you do anything, you have to register a business, and you have to get a work permit. To actually operate in Tanzania. To register a business in Tanzania is about $1,100 for a foreigner. The work permit costs about $3,050 for the foreigners. Now you have your business registered and you have your work permit. Now you can start operating in the country. But we have to look on another very important numbers you need to know is corporate tax. So if you start a business in Tanzania, you need to know how much money are you going to pay to the government as a tax. So I'm not really a fan of this, the taxes in Africa. I feel like some of the taxes are really imposed by IMF. They don't really reflect the country itself. And actually they work against the country. So Tanzania corporate tax is at 30%, which I think is worse. The corporate tax should be 10%. Because at 30%, which means business cannot really accumulate capital. So if the business is accumulating capital, they cannot reinvest it because they have to give it to the government. So that thing is ability to enforce contracts. So if you're doing a business in a country, you need to make sure the country has a good justice system in terms of if you have a contract with someone, they can actually enforce it in a court of law. Tanzania on that, they do a good job. I would give them about 8 out of 10. Perfect enforcing contract, perfect legal system. You can actually get your thing done. Another thing you need to look at is the cost of energy. Because if you're going to produce anything in the economy, the energy is going to be one of the biggest expense. So you have to look how much money am I going to be paying to produce this product, which comes to the cost of energy itself. So Tanzania energy price right now is about 0.097 cents per kilowatt per hour. It's the third most expensive in East Africa, which means the third most expensive out of the 7 countries of Tanzania, Kenya, Congo, Burundi, Rwanda, South Sudan. So Tanzania is the third most expensive on energy prices. By the way, this is the price for businesses. It's not for the houses. So this is business prices they have to pay to produce anything in Tanzania. So that thing you need to look into is ask yourself is property rights. Because you're going to do business in that country, you have to ask yourself, can I buy land? Can I own a house? Can I own a production? Can I own this? So the property rights, right? Tanzania has a little bit of strict rules when it comes to land. For example, a foreigner cannot own land, period. So the land is owned by the government, and the land is owned by the Tanzanian people entrusted with the government custodies, right? So that means all the land in Tanzania is owned by the government. And a foreigner cannot own land. If you want to own land as a foreigner, you have to go through one of their department called TIC, which is Tanzania Investment Center, and they're gonna apply there. Then once you apply there, they can let you lease the land, not own the land. You can lease the land for about 99 years. In that case, the actual title deed of that land is held by TIC, and all you have for you is a lease to use the land for 99 years. So that thing gonna know is office space. How much money am I gonna spend on office space. For example, if you want to start a business which need office space in Singapore, forget about it. It's not going to happen. The office space in Singapore is very expensive and very hard to get. So when you come to Tanzania, you have to think about how much money am I going to pay on my office space when I'm in Tanzania. So the price in Tanzania is a little bit not terrible, but I think it's still high compared to the market. It's about $14 per square meter. I'm coming to my last segment, which is where we're going to make money. So I want everybody to pay attention to this because this is where the bag is made. You know what I mean? So if you want to think about where to make money in a country, one of the easiest analysis you can make is first ask yourself a question. What does the country produce? Which resources does this country has? And what does the country import? So once you actually ask yourself those questions, you can actually figure out where there's a gap in the market. For example, if you go back up on import product, you can actually see a bigger picture of where we can make money. So Tanzania is already spending $1.5 billion a year to import refined copper. At the same time, Tanzania itself produce copper. They produce raw copper, which is about $815 million. So that means if we can, and also they have their own refinery, but they're still on a low capacity of $224 million. So the first investment you can do is invest in copper productions, which you can boost the production to about 80% or 90%, and then you can actually have the country running only 20% deficit. So in that moment, you can have about the net of about $1 billion in production. But let's go in a different way, which I like the most to make money on, agriculture. Tanzania has the second most arable land in Africa. Tanzania has the second biggest cattle or cows numbers in East Africa, which means, and also Tanzania has the second biggest market in East Africa. So which means people in Tanzania are growing so fast, they're giving birth left and right. So the kids are, there's so many kids now, you know what I mean? And they're coming up and the population is going to keep growing, which means they're going to need to eat. So based on a report that I read, it was done by the Dutch Embassy and Tanzania Agriculture. They were doing research on Tanzania farming and agriculture in Tanzania. One of the gaps they found in the market was the ability of storing food, right? For example, most of the food in Tanzania usually end up in a landfill and spoiled because Tanzania don't have a facility to store the food. So if you're an entrepreneur and you are into real estate, or you are just into farming, or you just want to have some asset, you can actually invest in a food storage by building like warehouses around the farming region, like Iringa, Arusha, all those regions, and they can actually help the farmers store their food longer than they can without the food storage facility. So number two, let's look into mining. How can we make money in mining? So in mining, I would say one of the best way we can make money in Tanzania is investing into processing and refining copper. So if you invest into processing and refining copper, this is a big boy game because you're looking about at least $20 to $50 million investment in this game, in this industry. So I would say for people who are actually a company or you are into a group of people, you guys can raise that type of money. I think refining copper would be one of the best opportunity you can invest in. So that opportunity that you can invest in, this is based on my experience being in Tanzania, is technology. I think there's a good smartphones adoption in Tanzania. A lot of people have smartphones, which is great. And there's access to internet. It's a little bit slow, but it's still there. So which means if you are an app entrepreneur, if you create mobile applications and you understand some of the technologies, you can actually build some mobile application in Tanzania and it can grow faster than in the US, than the UK, than any other country where you have massive competitions. You know what I mean? You can create, for example, app that solve the payment systems. You can create an app that's help people find the jobs. You can create apps that help people find love and all kind of stuff. So I think there's a massive opportunity in Tanzania fintech as well in technology itself. You know what I mean? So the last one, but not least, is Tanzania logistics. Tanzania logistics is still a little bit backward. I would say it's a little backward because the roads are not really great. You know what I mean? And the processing time is a little bit longer. So if you have skills with the logistics, supply chain management, I think Tanzania will be the great way you can actually be able to implement a system whereby product can move from all these farming regions or mining regions and come to the port as soon as possible, as well help people export stuff from Tanzania to other countries. So guys, thank you again to stay with me on this Monday analysis. We're going to be having Monday analysis every Monday of the week. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know every time we drop a video. I've been away for 2 years, but I'm back in full force. I'm going to be dropping a video Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So we're going to be doing a lot of analysis on African economy as we're growing with Africa. I'm out.